Brian in California, you are on with Matt and Hector. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Matt, Hector?
Not bad.
Good.
So I wanted to ask if you're familiar with and what your thoughts were on Pascal's mugging.
Is that like where the mugger comes up but doesn't have their weapon?
Yeah.
So they're basically like, hey, give me your money.
I can read off the problem statement, Hector, if you haven't heard of it, or if you want to.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Because it's you reading it. You reading it's going to be better than me doing it from memory. But it's like a mugger comes up and doesn't have a weapon, et cetera. So I'll let you do it.
Sure. I've got the Wikipedia page open. I can just read off the problem statement. In one description, Blaise Pascal is accosted by a mugger who has forgotten his weapon. However, the mugger proposes a deal. The philosopher gives him his wallet, and in exchange, the mugger will return twice the amount of money tomorrow. Pascal declines, pointing out that it is unlikely that the deal will be honored. The mugger then continues naming higher rewards, pointing out that even if there's just one chance in 1,000 that he will be honorable, it would make sense for Pascal to make a deal for a 2,000 times return. Pascal responds that the probability for that high return is even lower than 1 in 1,000. The mugger argues back that for any low probability of being able to pay back a large amount of money, or pure utility, there exists a finite amount that makes it rational to take the bet. And given human fallibility and philosophical skepticism, a rational person must admit that there is at least some non-zero chance that such a deal would be possible. In one example, the mugger succeeds by promising Pascal 1,000 quadrillion happy days of life. Convinced by the argument, Pascal gives the mugger the wallet. So it's a thought experiment relating to maximization of expected utility.
Okay.
I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
I don't know. Hector, did you have thoughts on it? Because I'll give my thoughts on it. I just don't want to stomp all
you
over
go
it.
ahead. I think that's more your wheelhouse. Yeah. No.
So it's a thought experiment, and that makes it very difficult to nitpick because the questions that you would normally ask are, what method is Pascal using to determine how likely this individual would be to be able to offer them I don't know how any individual could offer me a quadrillion happy days of life. I don't even know, I mean, that's absurd. So there would have to be some demonstration that there would be a likelihood of that outcome. Otherwise, you can't even begin to do the cost benefit analysis. It just becomes a hypothetical of, okay, how much do I have to promise you to convince you to give me whatever money is in your wallet? And if you don't believe, hey, I'll give you the exact amount back tomorrow. If you don't believe that that's likely, then what good does it do for them to say, I'll give you 10 times that tomorrow? Because that goes to the individual's character and whether or not you think they're going to follow through with it. And so this cost benefit analysis is like, how much are you going to risk? But this isn't a risk thing. It's probably a better thing than the mugger. I mean, it doesn't change it dramatically, but would be to like, a traveling salesman comes to your door and says, hey, for all the money in your wallet, I will come back here next week and give you 10 times that. Well, there's zero reason for me to think that this is real. I would need more evidence. So, hey, start showing me affidavits of all the other people that you've given, 100 times that to. And, can we get some sort of contract that guarantees that, that my risk is there? But apart from that, it's, for me, just an interesting thought experiment that each individual is going to have to answer for themselves. Like, if I've got $1,000 in my wallet, but it's $1,000 I need, like I took it out of the bank, I'm specifically going to do this, I'm not going to give it to anybody on a promise. But if I've got $1 in my wallet and there's a homeless person standing on the street corner and they say, hey, if you give me the money in your wallet, I'll give it all back to you tomorrow, tenfold. And granted, we've taken the mugging thing out of this because the mugging is ridiculous. But I'm going to give that person that dollar knowing that I'm probably never going to see it again. And so this is up to individuals to determine how much value a dollar or what the contents of a wallet has to them versus how much they're willing to risk. I don't see this as anything that has a particular usefulness in a broad sense.
Okay. So the other thing I wanted to say was the problem was coined by, and I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce this name, Eliezer Yudkowsky. who does a lot of work with AI research. So one of the things is considering the thought experiment in the context of an artificial intelligence, evaluating future possibilities and rewards. I don't know if that changes your perspective on it or not.
No, not really. To me, there's lots of interesting thought experiments. I don't know that this one teaches me anything about myself or anything about reality, because let's say I'm walking around just randomly with $1,000 in my wallet and some version of this scenario happens over and over and over again. I'm probably not giving it up. I'm probably, because I don't, however, what if it's not a mugger? What if it's just my brother? Even if I know that I can't trust my brother, I'm probably just going to go ahead and give him the money because he's somebody I care about. This is something boosting that individual's well-being. So I think there's way too many factors. And this is just kind of like an overly simplified thing that I don't know where it gets us.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was calling, I know that you've weighed in on the problems with Pascal's wager before, and the name of Pascal's mugging is based on referencing Pascal's wager. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm happy. Thanks for doing that. I mean, Pascal's wager is different in the sense that there we're talking about a proposition that people frequently accept and cite as for the reason why I might as well believe in Jesus because it doesn't cost me anything, even though it does.
Right.
And I'm going to potentially get infinite reward, even though there's no reason to think that's the case. The mugging's a little different.
Right.
And while you may have some interesting applications for AI, I think it actually, and this is one of the reasons it's interesting that Hector's here, because quite frankly, the only value that I see in these Pascal's mugging thing is to teach us about the psychology of people and how much they're likely to risk. I mean, it's not like we're learning a game theory exercise here. This is about individuals and how much they value what's in their wallet versus how much they're willing to risk it versus how likely the outcome is. There are people who are more risk averse.
Sounds kind of like trickle down economics to me.
Oh my gosh. I think you're right on the money. Thanks a lot for the call, Brian. I appreciate it.
I mean, there's a whole psychology about cooperation and cheater detection modules of the brain that I think this taps into, but yeah.
And cheater detection modules in the brain?
Well, so what is remarkable about human beings is that we can cooperate on such a massive scale. Like evolutionary anthropologist Richard Wrangham has pointed out. You put 100 chimpanzees in a stadium, and they're going to rip each other to shreds. You can put 100,000 people in a stadium, and they're going to get along relatively well. We can cooperate, but we also have special adaptations to detect cheaters on reciprocal exchanges, and they're very sensitive. So we can tell when people are lying. We can tell when people are cheating. We can tell when people are making up things. A lot of times. Sometimes we hide those realizations from ourselves to fit in. And I think that's what underlies a lot of religion. That's what underlies the COVID deniers. Like we hide beliefs from ourselves so that other cheater detection modules won't pick up on it, so that we can fit in and not be ostracized and not be ejected from the tribe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.